It's one of the sunniest countries on Earth, and that doesn't only mean the weather, although Barbados really is that tropical paradise island you've been dreaming of, perched almost at the tip of the Caribbean chain. But we're not here for a holiday. We're here for the serious business of Sol Rally Barbados, an event won an incredible 11 times by local hero Roger Skeet. That makes him the man everyone else needs to beat this weekend. But he's not saying much about how he plans to keep them all at bay.
Do you feel like you've got a target on your back?
Absolutely, but that's been so for a few times, you know. It's not an unusual feeling. but I try to disregard that and just, we're here for a Saturday, Sunday morning drive, and we'll see what happens at the end.
These are tough roads for a Saturday, Sunday morning drive, aren't they?
They are, yes, and you know, in this weather, in this high humidity, cockpit temperatures are close to 50 degrees C. Outside is like 34. Yeah, that's the big down point. It's so hot.
Paul, third time lucky?
Fourth time, Richard.
Fourth time, I've just counted.
Third time, Wander's lucky there. Yeah, 2 seconds, a third last time. Hopefully you can turn it around and go up a step, or two. It's difficult though, the local guys are very, very quick, and it's a lot of good cars. So I've got to be on top form today to give them a run for the money, I think. This
has got to be one of those places where local knowledge really helps, and coming back time and time again helps.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I'm not going to give up coming to. I want to win this rally sometime. It's one of the boxes I want to tick. So we'll just keep coming and try and wear them down. We've dropped the car a little bit. We're running a little bit low here because of really a lot of high-speed stuff and that today. So we're running pretty low, but I don't make too many changes. There's plenty of time in me than in the car.
Have you got to be leading tonight?
Yeah, yeah, you have. You know, it's tough. You know, I've let it fall and haven't been able to manage it to hold it out to the end. But they're quick in every stage and they know it so well. So you've got to be really on it straight from the word go.
A couple of hours before it gets interesting. You all ready? Fit to go?
Yeah, I think so. We've done all our preparations and nothing more we can do. So I'd say I'm pretty ready.
What do you think of the level of competition this year? It's going to be easy to bag another win?
No, I think this is probably one of the most competitive years I've ever competed in this rally. There are 3 S12s and 3 Ford Focuses that are going to be up at the top fighting, and then a bunch of others not far behind. So I think it'll be very competitive, and I know for sure Roger Skeet, you would have to say, is the kind of odds-on favourite at the moment, and he's certainly in good form, and I know him very well. I've competed against him for the whole time I've been rallying, 27 years, and I know what he's like, and he's going to be pushing hard from the very start, so I can't let him get too far away. I'm going to have to kind of push hard to keep up with him, you know?
You told us before the start this was going to be fun.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick to that. It's still fun, but it's very, very fast. Everybody's saying the same, it's slippery, but you know, we're lucky the weather's stayed dry so far. I hope it stays like that, but yeah, for us, we're learning the car, so you know, every stage is just a little bit of an improvement,
There aren't many facilities like this one in the cane fields, but the spectators are already lining the route of the first day's stages, waiting for the action. The penalty of being number one is that you start first and set the pace. Roger Skeet looking hard and fast in the Subaru as they begin a day of no less than 13 stages, made up of several repeats run northwards in the morning and then south in the afternoon. But where Roger Skeet grew up here and learned his rallying on the old kart roads that are the legacy of the sugar trade, international drivers like Paul Bird just have to keep coming back to tune themselves in with these uniquely rough road surfaces and attack them as hard as possible from the off. You heard Paul Bird talk about lowering the car, and this is why it's a brave move. It's lumpier than the Isle of Man out here, a place where drivers traditionally have a much higher ride height than you'd normally see on a tarmac event, just to clear the uneven surface and give the suspension a bit of a chance. Paul Bourne knows that Skeet will be going hard and everyone else will follow suit. He's been rallying for 27 years, he said, and in a Subaru WRC he's won this event twice. most recently in 2007, in between representing Barbados in yachting and surfing. He'll be hoping the Focus can do it for him again. And Rob Swan will be hoping this ex-Peter Solberg Impreza will do it for him. He's a regular in the British Rally Championship, of course, but this is his first event in the car. And apart from a day's testing in Wales, he's had little time to get used to it. And we've already seen the pace the others are setting. Third of the WRC Focus entries, Gary Gregg, one of numerous competitors who've come from Jamaica to tackle the event. He's a Jamaican rally champion and a previous winner of this event back in 2006 in an ex-Carlos Sainz Focus. Multiple Barbados Rally champion Sean Gill in the Suzuki SX4, built locally by Simpson Motors, and which he was hoping to use here last year. It just wasn't ready in time, and it got its first outing earlier this year. Already looking committed. Roger Hill next in the Corolla WRC, over the years the most consistent top 10 finisher of them all, apart from Roger Skeet, who has a habit of winning as well. But this is a strong record and he'll be planning to add another year to the list. And another of the numerous Subarus, this is John Powell, originally from Barbados but now competing out of Trinidad. Looking to improve on his 2 second places achieved behind the wheel of a Toyota Corolla both times. And it's not just about World Rally cars. The front-wheel drive class brings us plenty of variety, and it starts right here with Neil Armstrong's Toyota Starlet, laughingly described as super modified, sporting 1.8 power and fresh from being quickest of the two-wheel drive cars on the King of the Hill event. That's now the traditional pre-event warm-up for this one. One of 5 former winners of the event, Roger Mayers, looks to be having as much fun in the front-drive Starlet as he ever did in a Focus WRC, and that gave him victory in 2005. Spectator enthusiasm knows no bounds in Barbados, and in places it looks like the entire 250,000 population has turned out to watch. Ian and Robert Warren in another Starlet, bound to be among the quick two-wheel drives today. Absolutely immaculate to look at and nailed everywhere you see it. Back to four-wheel drive, this is Dean Serrao, another of the ubiquitous Imprezas. Up past the improvised grandstand and off into the cane field there. Straight in among the spectators, no one touched. Let's see what happened again. There's a bump there that throws it off. He overcorrects, into the field he goes, ploughing to a halt just in time. The historic section, always popular, Steve Perez with a handful of Porsche Turbo at the bottom of the hill, but gets away with it and carries on. And he's not the only one. Kenny Hall in the Puma following in his wheel tracks, and also getting off pretty lightly, although it's taking him a while longer to dig the car out. Spectators enjoying the fun, and there it is on its way. But he's already being caught, and it's Carl Catwell behind him. They start at 30-second intervals, so not much time for error. And here are the intervals after the opening 2 stages, both short, so we're 8 kilometres into it, and Roger Skeet already has a second in hand. Paul Bourne a similar amount clear of Paul Bird, but the day has hardly started yet. Two stages completed on Sol Rally Barbados, and the morning has only just begun. The next 3 tests add 13 kilometres to the trips, but still won't take us up to lunchtime, although that won't bother the spectators, who mostly brought their own. Roger Skeet grabbed an early lead. It's only just over a second, but when the stages are short, sharp and fast like these are, winning back time already lost is the tallest possible order, and nobody knows it better than Paul Bird. He's third, not second, and already 2 seconds behind Skeet. Nothing back in Europe, but already a big issue running through these stages. Canefield, Pickerings and Orange Hill, the last two repeats of the first two we did this morning. Paul Bourne, and they call him the surfer in the local press, is the man in second spot, but with Bird just a second behind, he's also a man under pressure, and he's chasing after Skeet as well. Rob Swan went from third to fifth on stage two, hardly surprising as he finds his way around the car for the first time, but it's still at the low end of his ambitions for this weekend, so he'll be wanting to turn the gas up, although he's still got to deal with these incredibly bumpy roads. Just watch the front edge of the bonnet. And people like former winner Gary Gregg, just a few seconds behind him on the leaderboard after stage two, the first run through Orange Hill, and very much on the pace as they tackle it again in this group of 3 stages. Sean Gill had a nightmare first stage with his new Suzuki, and he's down in the teens after SS2, now needing some serious times to get back on terms with the World Rally car field. Roger Hill climbed from 7th to 5th on the first 2 stages and now splits Rob Swan and Gary Gregg right in the thick of the action. This is John Powell, 8th on the road but 4th after the first pair of stages. These untidy lines meaning he must fall into the clutches of Rob Swan, who was just 1 second behind. Neil Armstrong was 10th overall, third of the two-wheel drives behind the Warren brothers, the gap between them just 1 second after the first 2 stages. This group of 3 giving both of them a chance to make a break. Roger Mayers, he was right between them on the leaderboard. He's the second of the front-wheel drives, 8 tenths clear of Armstrong, and just 2 tenths behind the two-wheel drive leaders here, Ian and Robert Warren. And wherever you go in the world, you can be sure of epic competition between the smaller front-engined, front-drive cars, and this is it. And this is Mark Hamilton in the Mitsubishi, 11th on the overall leaderboard, top runner in what we call Group N in Europe. Five of the day's 13 stages complete, and the last 3 saw Paul Bourne drop a little time and drop to third. But Roger Skeet is just doing what he does. These next 2 stages take us up to lunchtime with a full service halt and a regroup. And right now, Roger Skeet is heading in with almost 9 seconds in his pocket. He's taking half a second a kilometre from his rivals, and you can see he knows exactly when to push the Subaru hardest. Still learning the roads, and it's taken Roger Skeet a lifetime to do that, remember. Paul Bird is driving as well and as quickly as he ever has, but he's just got to find something extra if he wants to take the win away from the local heroes. Almost 2 seconds behind him after the first 5 stages, Paul Bourne will also be looking to find something extra from his Focus, but he's already 10 seconds behind Skeet. And he'll have to think about Rob Swan as well. Up into 4th place now and definitely getting more comfortable in the car. He was 7th, now he's moved up to 6th, so Gary Gregg is likewise getting into the groove. Although if you want to stay with Skeet, you have to start in the groove and just keep at it. Stage 1 behind him now. Sean Gill has been banging in regular top 10 times and getting faster. He was 7th, starting this pair of stages. It all went horribly wrong on SS5 for Roger Hill, and so John Powell is next on the road and chasing after Rob Swan, a 10th of a second ahead of him. Neil Armstrong hammering the Toyota again, and it's working as well. He was two-wheel drive leader after SS5 and 2 seconds in the clear. Not enough to relax, though. And certainly not when the man chasing him is Ian Warren. We've lost Roger Mayers, who was second, so this is the battle for the lead in two-wheel drive. And Mark Hamilton is still the Group N leader. The Mitsubishi man has some 10 seconds on his class rival, but rather less on the WRC Impreza of Roger Duckworth behind him. And here's how it looks at the midday halt then. Skeet with 10 seconds in hand over Paul Bird, and Paul Bourne surprisingly a few seconds further back. But although they can make minor adjustments at any time, there's an hour now for a bit of thought and perhaps some more significant changes to set up. And for those drivers chasing the seemingly unflappable Roger Skeet, they may well be needed. His team is just polishing the windscreen and keeping the car clean. Nothing to worry about here.
Looks to me as though the cool suit's working.
Well, it's not doing too bad, you know. It's towards the end of the loop, it's running out of ice, but it's doing pretty good.
And apart from the temperature in the car, how were the stages?
Excellent. We've been enjoying it.
We've been watching and we've seen you enjoying it. We also sort of had you fastest on the splits everywhere we saw you, and you're just creeping ahead, huh?
Yeah.
So just keep your head down and keep on going.
Keep on going.
Good job, you enjoy it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Rain's falling now
On the stages?
in Sailor Gully, yeah.
So this afternoon could be a bit of a challenge?
If it continues, it depends on how long it falls for. If it doesn't fall for too long, with this ambient temperature and high road temperature, it'll be dry in 15 minutes.
I know what cooked chickens feel like now. Yeah, it's hot, right, really humid, so it's quite, it makes you hydrated. Kirsty was ill, so she's finding it pretty difficult, but yeah, she's hot.
What sort of temperature is it in the car then, do you reckon?
It's like being sat in the sauna back home. Probably about 100, 105 degrees, I think.
What about tyres? How have they been working for you?
Pretty good. That set went off on the last stage about 3 corners from the end, so that was a good gauge. We ran them last weekend, so they've been pretty good really. So I know that the next set will be perfect for the next loop this afternoon.
A couple of rain clouds on the horizon.
That might slow them down a bit. Give us a chance.
Well, we saw you on a couple of the stages, and on the splits, you were more or less level with Skeet going past us. So.
Yeah, we're on the door handle. There's nothing left, absolutely nothing left. You know, can't go any quicker. So if he takes time out of me, there's nothing I can do about that now. We're full gas.
Ryan, can't help noticing that you're not in your race suit, so you're not driving, but you couldn't keep away, huh?
No, that's right. I think once you come to this island, it kind of gets in your blood. So I first came here 10 years ago and done the rally sort of 3 or 4 times since. But you know, if I don't compete, we come back on holiday. It's great fun, great rally to come and spectate on, and obviously a great island to have a few days away.
The spectators here are out in force, and they're really up for it, aren't they? Everywhere you go.
It's difficult to describe just how knowledgeable the spectators are. You know, you'll be stood on the side of a stage and they're chattering away. They know everything about all the drivers, all the cars, and they're very, very knowledgeable people, and they just love the sport. It's a massive sport on this island.
Every big corner on the route has hundreds of cheering fans, and where the route runs through small villages, the streets and gardens have been turned into grandstands for the weekend. And though they love a local hero and are delighted to see the rally dominated by one of their own, what they like even better is a race and a bit of spectacle. Close rallying like this gives them both. Paul Bird wasn't kidding when he said there's no more left to give. Any closer to the scenery here and he'll become part of it. How much closer do you want that to be? That was very popular with the spectators, and you can quite see why. Paul Bourne is more than 4 seconds behind him now, but that midday conference with his engineers has led to a setup change, and that may help him close the gap. Rob Swan was 5th at the lunchtime halt, which is good work in the new car, considering he's got at least one previous winner of this event behind him on the leaderboard. And as we said before, just watch the leading edge of the bonnet if you want to know how bumpy these roads are. Good job it's held in with pins. Here's Sean Gill, previously a winner in two-wheel drive with the Suzuki Swift, going well now in four-wheel drive and up to 7th overall. He probably doesn't want to be back here mixing it with the rough boys. Neil Armstrong headed them out of service with a 5-second margin, so small a gap that he's just got to keep the pressure on stage after stage. And look what's at the other end of that 5-second gap. The Warren brothers and their Simpson Motors Suzuki, a car with a reputation for being almost unbreakable. That's the sharp end of two-wheel drive, running ahead of some WRC entries. Roger Duckworth is next, 10 seconds down on Warren. He won this appearance as his reward for winning the Sunseeker National Rally in the UK. And in Group N, it's still all about Mark Hamilton, still growing his lead at the head of the class. And the third of the two-wheel drives, another Toyota. This is Josh Reed. The crowd's responding to every hard-driven car with the same enthusiasm. No big changes in the leaderboard at the end of those stages, but as Skeet continues to gallop away, Paul Bourne might just be closing in on Paul Bird. The last group of stages takes us into the Caribbean sunset and might also take us into the rain Roger Skeet was talking about. They have the right tyres if they need them, but knowing if you need them or not is the real skill. These are all reruns of stages they've been through earlier, and they're a bit quicker the second time through. Rob Swan out of road order here, but still in 5th place. Paul Bourne is now the only driver, apart from Roger Skeet, to have topped a stage leaderboard today, and that was after the service halt, so it's safe to say the car is working better than it was. Third in P4, the Group N equivalent, this is Andrew Malalieu, well off the top 10 leaderboard, but there are almost 90 starters in this event, and most of them will never get into the top 20, no matter how briefly. Here's a man who is, though. Gary Gregg was 6th starting this final bunch of stages, 45 seconds from Skeet, but just 2 seconds behind Rob Swan, so he could make up a place by the end of the day if he could really push it hard. And here's the man who has been. Paul Bourne might have sorted his car out halfway through the day, but Paul Bird has just raised his game this afternoon, and that's made him a hard man to catch. Bourne was gunning for him, but Bird is definitely shooting back. And here's a man with a whiff of the podium in his nostrils. John Powell recorded a second fastest time on his second run through Orange Hill South, and now he's just a couple of seconds behind Bourne in P3. Sean Gill is still 7th. The long fight back from outside the top 10 was the easy part, and now chipping time out of the front runners is looking more and more like the impossible dream. And with the lights fitted for the next stage in darkness, Roger Duckworth is in 10th place as night closes in. He was up to 9th by the end of the day as Sean Gill tumbled back to 15th, but up front it was Skeet holding off Bird and Bourne. And as we said before, this is an event that's about far more than the top 10. With almost 20 nations represented among their number, every single one of the 80-plus starters gets recognition and applause from the enthusiastic spectators crowding every vantage point. In some cases, the car alone does the trick, and they start cheering as soon as they see it. Incredibly enough, they know as well as anyone on a Welsh stage that sideways escorts, minis on steroids, 1600s on the limiter, and an unbelievably ferocious Ford Anglia are all rare enough and well enough executed to be worthy of recognition. And the last line of today's schedule says, hand in time card, sleep well. Day 2 is next, of course. Yes, it's another hard day on the stages here on Sol Rally Barbados, and as the beaches lie silent and the rest of the island is waking up rather lazily for a Sunday morning lie-in, more than 80 cars are being readied for a day of 10 stages and one super special to round it all off. There are plenty of battles throughout such a big entry list, but we're concentrating on the one at the front where Paul Bourne is a few seconds behind Paul Bird, but rally leader Roger Skeet took a 13-second lead home with him last night, and he has every reason to start today even more confident than he was yesterday morning, and he may not have said so, but he was quietly confident.
It is quite a severe pace at the front. We've stood on a lot of stages now, and that is 100% commitment everywhere you go.
Absolutely, yeah, you have to be. I mean, we may have backed up a little bit in the last 3 stages last night, just not to take too many silly chances. But truthfully, believe that really ended up in more near misses as a result of backing off a little bit, you know. But anyway, we conserved it and we got through, and we're here this morning. All the way.
Yesterday all was not well in the Paul Bird escort.
First line in Kirsty's pace notes this morning, so it's past the sick bag, is that right?
I think we're running about 2 stone lighter today. She had a pretty torrid day yesterday. I think I lost count of how many times we had to stop on the roadside, but yeah, it was a difficult day for her, but it was extreme heat yesterday.
A little bit of rain about today though, is that good or bad for you?
Well, when you live in the Lake District and it rains 300 days a year, might be good for me. So yeah, that might fall in my favour because I go pretty good in the wet as well. So yeah, fingers crossed. But I need to give it a bit in the dry though.
This was already going to be a difficult day, wasn't it? Now it's raining.
Yeah, well, we can always expect that here, you know. Last year, same thing. The year before that, same thing. So not a problem.
So, same plan today? Go for it?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable today though. Got a few fastest times yesterday afternoon.
Hard work yesterday, wasn't it?
Very hard work. Hard work driving, hot conditions, and my competition is pushing hard.
It's very close, huh?
Yeah, very, very close. We've had a few issues, so I think we still have a little extra time in the bag, maybe for today, but how the island is situated, that's my home ground. Now we're on his home ground, if you would. So we got to pull something extra special out today to keep ahead.
We've watched that on the stages, and we've looked at the car, and quite frankly, we're expecting someone a bit more like Darth Vader to get out. You seem normal.
Only from the outside, I guess.
You've been absolutely on it everywhere we've seen you.
Thanks a lot. We've really been trying hard. We have a serious battle going on with the Suzuki Swift of Ian Warren. We've been trading times all yesterday. He gained some chunk of times last night in the night stages. Never been very good in the night. But I think he's only a couple seconds up, and we're really going to give it to him today. We're really going to try hard, and I imagine it will be a good battle again today.
And the spectators really are out in force today. The cane fields crowded as they tackle 3 stages twice with a direction change to spice it up. And they're among the longest stages of the event, nothing shorter than 6 kilometres, so it's a shorter day, but almost as many stage clicks as yesterday. And you heard the man this morning, the medicine as before, 100% attack from the first green light of the day, even if he did give up his run of fastest stage times last night just to hold his lead, and reminded himself that it's often riskier to go slower than it is to maintain the same pace. 2 fastest times last night for Paul Bird have kept him well and truly in second place. The gap to Paul Bourne was 4 seconds at the overnight halt, but it's been a bit less and a bit more, so he needs to watch his back as much as he's thinking ahead. But he's already in a place where he really needs Skeet to have a puncture or a misfire or something. Paul Bourne has nothing to worry about. He's nicely safe from a mugging by 4th place Rob Swan, and all he needs is to be comfortable in the car, fine up his lines and get the power down early and see if he can catch watch Paul Bird while it stays dry. Rob Swan is 45 seconds behind Paul Bourne as they start the morning, and though he said at the start he wanted to find a place in the top 5, what he'd really like is to get up on the podium. So don't expect him to be taking it easy. Apart from anything else, Gary Gregg held a very close 5th spot last night, just 1 second away from Swan's 4th. So these two have got some proper sorting out to be done this morning. And as the spectators continue to line the route, Gregg's getting straight on with it. Now, this was an impressive drive yesterday afternoon by John Powell, but as afternoon became dusk and then dark, his pace dropped off, as several did, and he slipped down into 6th. Now he's back on it in the daylight, and we'll find out where that takes him. Ian Warren was one of the men who benefited from the night stages. Neil Armstrong backed it off a little, and Warren just kept his toe in it all the way home. And the payoff is P1 in 2-wheel drive with 6 seconds in hand. That might not sound like much, but it was the biggest margin between them all day long, and now Armstrong is going to drive it like a Miami car thief if he wants to get back on terms with the Suzuki. But he does that pretty much all the time, so it shouldn't be much to ask. Two stages in then, Roger Skeet leads, Bird is easing away from Bourne, and he in turn is getting further ahead of Rob Swan, while Warren and Armstrong are still at it. With rain in the air, it's still party time along the stages. Never has a TV crew refused so many offers of a free drink. This cheerful and well-informed crowd are here for the day, and they're following the ups and downs of all the competitors with remarkably shrewd interest. It won't be doing Roger Skeet any disservice to say that by now they've taken victory number 12 as a given. Although we know only too well that the man himself won't be counting any of those chickens until he finishes the Super Special in Bushy Park this evening. They're chickens Paul Bird would dearly like to add to his extensive flock, but even though he's driving out of his skin today, and today's fractionally lower temperatures have saved Kirsty Riddick from yet more car sickness on the road sections, despite all that, he just can't close the gap. And nor can he shake off Paul Bourne. Bird has added another fastest stage time already today at a time when Skeet wasn't backing off, so you know how hard he's trying. But so is the Surfer Man, and he's not going to go away. Rob Swan's stage times today make interesting reading. 7th, 6th, 5th and now 4th, steadily getting faster, but already too far behind Bourne for it to make a great deal of difference. Gary Gregg dropped a place on stage 16, and it was his last appearance. A mechanical problem forced him to retire the Focus. John Powell definitely was back on it again today. 2 more second fastest times kept him right up Swan's exhaust pipe on every stage, the gap getting smaller every time they went through an end of stage control and had their cards marked. Up 1 on the overall leaderboard because of Gregg's retirement, Warren was only interested in winning the 2-wheel drive battle with the man behind him. But a slow time on stage 16 changed all that. Now Warren was the man behind and Armstrong is the man in front. In full Evil Empire livery, Armstrong continued his attempts to explode the 1.8 engine in the Toyota, but failed. Top of the showroom spec group ends, still Mark Hamilton managing a 1-minute gap in the class battle and an overall 9th place. Paul Bourne is now ahead of Paul Bird after a Canefield excursion filled the Focus radiators and an overheating engine forced him to back off. Now he's further behind Bourne than he ever was ahead of him, and you'll never guess who's still leading. The whole of this small island, 21 miles long and 14 wide, seems to have been brought to a halt. 250,000 people with their attention focused on the activities of a couple of hundred. And our attention is focused on just a few of those 200, starting with Paul Bird, who literally slipped down from second to third place on the morning stages and now has just 5 more, hardly 26 kilometres, to make up 7 seconds on Paul Bourne, who is in turn 27 seconds down on this man, rally leader Roger Skeet. Ironman Skeet put the hammer down hard at the start of this event, and everyone has been playing catch-up since the start of stage 1 some 90 kilometres ago. Rob Swan's aim of a top 6 finish is still well in hand. He's 5th now, a big cushion behind him and a small 2-second gap ahead, leaving him free to chase after 4th place. And here's the man he's chasing, John Powell in a similar Subaru. Some good stage times over the past 2 days, keeping him right in the frame for a strong finish. The Warren brothers are still second in two-wheel drive, still probably wondering how Neil Armstrong got a couple of seconds in front of them after they led him into the overnight halt. And here's the answer. Bouncing it off the rev limiter, flying it over the Malvern jump. That's how. Prize winner Roger Duckworth took a steady start, but he's been getting steadily faster, 8th on the overall leaderboard right now. And heading up Group N still, Mark Hamilton is 9th overall, well over a minute down on Duckworth. In 10th place overall, 3rd in two-wheel drive, Josh Reed, Toyota Starlet. The entire output of Starlets appears to have been converted for rallying in the Caribbean. And next up is James Betts, just outside the top 10 with the formidable-looking Clio. Behind him, Brett Clark, unlucky 13th, starting this group of stages, giving the 1600 C2 just about all it can take. Not all going smoothly, though. Chris Elliott has lost a suspension arm before the jump, luckily, and Steve Perez still heads up the historics. Paul Bourne is closer to Roger Skeet, but not close enough. Bird closing on Bourne, and Swan still 2 seconds behind Powell. And these are the last 2 stages out here in the Canefields for Roger Skeet and for all the others. He's 30 seconds clear now, but he's still not taking any chances of being caught or losing his concentration. 2nd on the road, 3rd on the leaderboard. Paul Bird is now 5 seconds behind Paul Bourne and not losing any opportunities to close it up in these final 15 kilometres. But his off-tarmac excursion scuppered his 2nd place, and with it any chance to put Skeet under pressure. And Rob Swan is still the same 2 seconds behind John Powell. There's precious little between them on the stage times now, but it's late in the day to be closing gaps. But then try telling that to John Powell. He knows he isn't going to make the podium without a major mishap up front, and he isn't going to catch Paul Bird either. But with Swan just 2 seconds behind, he's got to keep it pinned. And Paul Bourne must be feeling the same way. He lost 3 seconds to the green focus of Paul Bird on the previous stage, and he can feel the hot breath on the back of his neck. However, Neil Armstrong can afford to back off. Ian Warren had a big moment on the last stage, and now the second-place man in two-wheel drive is 2 minutes behind him. Maybe he hasn't heard, because he's still not showing it any mercy at all. And almost at the end of a good tidy drive, Mark Hamilton has the best part of a minute in hand over the next one up in Group N. All the road stages are complete now, but the results aren't declared until after the Super Special, so second place is still officially up for grabs. It would take a big mishap for Paul Bourne to lose 4 seconds in 2 laps of the Bushy Park racecourse, even with a big jump in it. So for him and Paul Bird, it looks as though this is it.
Good but no cigar and very nearly no car.
Yeah, I think I'm going to become a bridesmaid, you know. It's hard, so hard to get the win. A second, I've had a second, now third and a third again, but it's been good. I drove really well. I thought I drove as good as I've ever driven, so...
We were watching you on the stages, and you have driven as well as you've ever driven, definitely.
Yeah, I was pleased with that. You're driving against a lot of very good drivers in good cars. People back home probably don't realise how quick these guys are going. But, you know, there's only Chris Meek that I know of can beat him, so... yeah, difficult. Very fast. But it's a great little rally, good fun.
I can see you've been working hard. I know you got second. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, but it's not over yet. We still have one stage, and we've just worked out unofficially that we're 4.3 seconds ahead of Bird, which isn't much. So this is going to be a very important stage here now, and it's quite tricky with that jump. We don't know how to approach that. Yeah, so this could make or break the whole rally right now.
Oh, you're telling me it could change in this stage?
It could definitely change in this stage.
Hard to believe that a 2-kilometre super special that's traditionally been all about showmanship could really affect the outcome of the rally, but it is theoretically possible for things to go wrong. No problems for Paul Bourne, no second place for Paul Bird, and no question about first place. He didn't win all the stages, but he won enough on day one to do the job.
I mean, is that as scripted? No problems?
Well, no, we didn't have any problems, but there were a few near misses Saturday night. And this afternoon in Malvern, in the rain, that was definitely the nearest of all. So, but it ended well.
Back next year?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Win number 12 for Roger Skeet in 2011. Will there be a 13th?